Hi guys, so I wasn't going to make a post about this, but I've had a lot of people contacting me both publicly and privately, asking me about things and how things are going. And also my cousin in Carlisle in the north of England, who I haven't actually seen for many years, he called up my dad to ask if I was okay, at which point I thought, probably should make a little status update. The reason I haven't spoken on this is firstly because I haven't been very up to date on things. People don't believe me when I say this, but I don't have a television, don't have a radio, don't buy the newspaper. So I also curate very carefully what comes into my social media streams. So until somebody tells me about something, I usually don't go and look it up. So I was a bit late learning about everything that's been going on. People are sort of asking for an opinion piece, but I think you've got to be very careful with those. And I honestly don't think that my personal opinion would add much to anybody's lives right now. But, you know, there are a couple of things I guess that I can and will say. First of all, life in Kigali is very, very normal right now. You wouldn't know anything's going on. I didn't till somebody told me and I looked it up. That's why people keep contacting me saying, are you okay? Are you safe? But in Kigali, you are very safe. Like nothing out of the ordinary is going on. And I thought it was worth mentioning this because I have some friends who are visiting at the moment. And we've spent the past couple of weeks going out to bars and having a really good time. And I've made a couple of videos that are now scheduled to release. And I did that before any of this happened in Goma. And so I realised that if I don't give an explanation, it's going to look really, really weird to see me out and about having a good time in Kigali. I'm still going to put those videos out because it shows my life as it is. But also they were filmed before this all happened. So that's a bit of an explanation there. Also, the video that I just put out, I realised because I heard the news the day before that came out, and I was like, oh, because I'm on that talking about how much I like war and the blood splatters on the cover design that I've got, and it can come across as exceedingly insensitive until you realise that I had made that video a couple of weeks before any of this happened, and I could have pulled the video, but I thought I would make this video instead just to give a bit of context to everything. I can't really add a huge amount other than it is really difficult to watch. I have friends who live in Gisenyi who have relocated down to Kigali. This is the second time they've done that. So one of my friends grew up in a war zone, and her parents were journalists during a quite horrific war. And so she has a lot of memories from growing up during that period. So of course that kind of unrest causes problems. And 2 years ago, she told me the story that she was actually underneath her kitchen table because 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago to the day, there was a fighter jet shot down sort of. There's a lot of debate, but between the Congo-Rwanda border. And actually, that was the last time that my friends were visiting the country as well. So we were going up to Gisenyi at the time when that news broke. And we're like, do we go? Do we not go? But we did decide to go in the end. But this time around, anybody who can is kind of evacuating down to Kigali. This happens from time to time. Things kicked off in Burundi several years ago, and you had all of the aid workers and anybody who could coming up to Kigali again. So Kigali is considered a very safe place, and it's where everybody kind of aims for when things happen. This has always been a juxtaposition in Rwanda. Even when I first arrived back in 2007, you could go to the lakeside, Lake Kivu, and you could sit in a bar and you could drink your beer and you could look across the lake at night time. You can't see Kivu from Rwanda. I think you can sometimes see Ijwe Island on a clear day, but you can't see all the way across to DRC. But you know that whilst you are sitting there in an incredibly safe bar, drinking your beer and chatting with your friends, that sort of all hell is breaking loose just over the other side of the lake. It's something that has always happened, always been a factor. Over the years, the border has been open, it's been closed, it's been open, it's been closed. And occasionally things happen. In 2008, I think it was, grenades went off in Kigali, but so, over the years there have been incidents. I think that the escalation in violence is very disturbing. I also think that the escalation in war rhetoric is quite disturbing. Even several months ago, I remember going down to our local supermarket, and there was a copy of the New Times, which is our largest paper, English language paper in Rwanda, and there was a headline staring up at me, which basically talked about making sure that fighting would occur on the Congolese side, that, Rwanda would not be put in danger. But even then, several months ago, there was definitely a sense that we were on the brink of something. And I feel for myself, one of the things that I keep thinking about is that the vast majority of the population are quite young. The average age in Rwanda is 20 years old. They didn't live the events of 94. They've grown up in a very different environment. The country is peaceful. There's a high emphasis on the importance of education, on starting businesses, investing. They've grown up in a very, very different world to most of sort of, I suppose, the leadership of East Africa did. And it's just a bit painful to hear the war rhetoric, because you're thinking these young people have every right to expect a peaceful adulthood, and not to have to think about the same atrocities that their parents and their grandparents witnessed. And so you're sitting there thinking, well, given how far this country has come in 30 years, I mean, it's come an incredible distance. Would you really want to risk that generation to put that same kind of, I suppose, trauma into another generation? Because, nobody who is 20 years old today should have to worry about the thought of conscription or an early death. And so it would be nice to see a de-escalation in the war rhetoric. And it is a complicated situation, but, these are intelligent people, we hope, on both sides, and intelligent people, where there is a will, there is a way. And it would be interesting to see if we can find that way forward. But all other things aside, just from my perspective, I don't know. I mean, like I say, my opinion is not really needed in these circumstances. But whenever I hear about things like this, I feel very strongly that, I'm going to say it, I feel very strongly that maybe we should talk less about governments and policies and more about people. There are very strong ties between people in Congo, people in Rwanda, but also as human beings, we all share exactly the same DNA. We do. And, loss is loss. Displacement is displacement. Losing your home, losing your loved ones, losing your life is the same experience for everybody. And I know it's probably not a popular thing to say at all, but I also feel quite strongly for, this is going to be a controversial point, I'm going to say it, but I feel quite strongly for a lot of the soldiers who have put down their weapons and asked for sanctuary, as it was, because for months now there have been newspaper headlines about you know, the DRC are really hot on executing military deserters. And you know that's a hell of a risk. And I saw a clip where one of them just sat down. He said, I'm exhausted, you know, we're tired. And, you know, that's a hell of a risk to take, because they know that if they ever go back, you know, it's not going to end well. And I just feel like the conditions that people are living in and what they're being asked to do, and then to be threatened, you know, with execution when you don't want to do it, should that be happening in the 21st century? Should it? I know in the UK, the kind of, I think the punishment for desertion is anywhere from about 2 years to life, depending on how serious it was. Like if you walk off a battlefield in the middle of a battle, I think it's a lot harsher than if you just walk out of training camp. But I still think that, you know, executing deserters sounds ever so World War II to me, and very lacking in compassion. And I know that we're talking about soldiers here, and I know soldiers do things that yeah, we all know what soldiers do. So maybe people don't feel as much compassion there. But I think this is why my opinion doesn't matter so much, because I haven't lived their lives. I'm not embroiled in this conflict myself. And so there is a limit to what comes out of my mouth, how much that matters. But yeah, I just thought I'd give this update, partly for my family. Hi guys, I'm fine. Cat's fine. Yeah, no, Kigali, it's just life as normal. And I think this confuses people, because when you watch the news always hones in very, very strongly on the action. That's a horrible word to say, but you know, the killing. And so people think that is all of Rwanda, and it's confusing people as well, like my dad said, because the news are showing reports in Goma 1 minute and reports in Kinshasa the next minute, and people don't understand how big DRC is. People have got no concept of the geography of this part of Africa in the West, and so they kind of get this idea that Goma and Kinshasa are next to each other. And it's similar here. It's like Kigali is many, many miles away from the Goma border. So, you know, it's not all in the same place. You know, we're a long way from what's going on. Yeah. And yeah, it's the peacekeepers as well. I mean, fucking hell, they've got families. If you've ever been to the Peacekeepers Memorial here in Kigali, I mean, you don't forget that. You know, people left their home to go and do what they thought was a good idea. Turned out to be the last thing they ever did. But yeah, people have got a lot of varying opinions on the UN and peacekeepers and everything going on. I don't know. I'm not even going to ask what you guys are thinking right now, because I just don't think that online social media commentary on this is helpful. If you want to tell me what you're thinking, please do. But I probably won't reply to a lot of it, because it's not that I don't care. It's not that I am not watching the news and seeing what's happening. But as I keep saying, I think there's a limit to how much my opinion and my input really does anything. So let's leave it to the people whose actions do make a difference, and let's really hope that they just turn the dial down a little and look for the commonalities rather than the division. Anyway, I'm going to stop now, and like I say, there's going to be a few videos coming out of nights out in Kigali. Yeah, all right, see you later.